Dick Ritger, Hartford, Wisconsin. He's won 3 tournaments in his career. He's 5'7", 27 years old. You know, in any sport, Billy, I've never seen so many slight, thin fellows as you have in bowling.
But it's to their advantage to be slight, thin, small-waisted, small-hip, because they have a better margin for error. When you have big hips, and you're a tall man, you're further away from the floor, it's harder to get that ball around and keep it in a straight line. When you're small-waisted, that ball will swing by your body, and you've got 5 or 6 boards more margin for error in your swing than someone whose hip is in the way, and the arm will bounce off if you get in a little tight.
Well, Frank Esposito of the PBA was telling me of the top 20 bowlers, only one was overweight, but he wouldn't tell me which one. You overweight, Bill?
No, I'm in shape, bud.
We brought that one in. Ritger now up. It's amazing how this Professional Bowlers Association has grown. Less than 10 years ago, there were 33 members and $47,000 in prize money. Now there are 900 members and close to $2 million in prize money.
It's getting sweeter all the time, bud. Eddie Elias has just done a remarkable job for the boys in the Professional Bowlers Association in bringing us to the plateau that we presently are enjoying. Gets very low. Long arm swing. Very good reach.
And we'll be back with more of the third match between Dick Ritger and Bill Hardwick in just a moment. Here is Dick Ritger's strike you just saw in slow motion coming up. That's pretty perfect, isn't it, Billy?
There you see the value of the spin shot. You see how the ball stays straight into the pin deck.
Now Dick Ritger with a big opportunity here to forge ahead even more. He leads by 14 pins.
Playing a very little soft and dainty shot in there on lane 34, and that time he was even slower than he wanted to be. He feared much worse. Came out pretty good, leaving only the 4-pin.
Tell me, Billy, to a top bowler like yourself, all these lanes, I guess, are different, aren't they?
Yes, Bud, they certainly are. Every lane in the house is a little different, and that's why the boys have such a difficult time as you'll see them going game to game. Because you may have adjusted to one pair, and the next pair you move to, you have to make another adjustment. You can't just stay and get grooved in.
Ritger leading here by 14 right now.
In fact, we hope our viewers stay with us through this 1968 tour. We're going to sort of label this year's tour Operation Explanation and bring out some of those finer points that are not visible.
Now, that looked pretty good to me. What happened there, Billy? Get up that Billy board and show us,
the ball rolled a little bit too sharply. He was slow, first of all. He had a good lift. The ball cut through here too sharply. To try and make this, he's going to roll it to the left side and barely touch the floor, sliding it over into the 10. Then the ball will go on through and get the 7.
Yeah,
that is exactly right. Very good choreography there, Bud.
Thank you.
And he might make that. Hey!
Well, that brings us right even again. Billy Hardwick will be up. 6th frame. There's Ritger, a little unhappy. And your score.
Each week, 4 high scores.
Good chance then for Ritger to really go ahead.
The greatest thing in professional sports that has made it so beautiful for television and viewing today is the element of competition for the dollar, for the amount of money. The more money, the more the competition. The more excited the player, the more excited the viewing audience. And we're going to have a close match here from the way the trend is evolving. It's got to be a close match.
Ritger with the spare, leading by 11. Moves into the 8th right now. As you say, this is not a high scoring. We started out with a couple of pretty good games, 226 for Don Glover in defeating Dick Weber, 211, but this couldn't be closer, really.
All right. Very low, using a loft.
Got that one. And a comfortable way to spend a winter afternoon watching competition among the finest professional bowlers. We'll be back in Phoenix in just a minute. Now Dick Ritger can afford to play a little conservatively. Going into his 9th, he leads by 37. Could have gotten a mean split out of that one. And looks like this is our winner here. Dick Ritger. Billy Hardwick can't catch him. Gets the spare there. Don't forget, we'll have the big final match coming up between Dick Ritger here and Ed Patterson, who's been waiting in the background. You might hear the pins going down there. That's Ed Patterson practicing. And don't forget, over most of these same stations, right after this PBA tournament, it's the Hula Bowl football game, live and in color, direct from Hawaii, with Chris Schenkel and Bud Wilkinson. That one looked mighty good. But Dick here is out ahead by 37 pins. He's in the 10th frame.
Notice how he rolled that ball cross lane, Bud. Very, very good angle.
He'll have a 180 something here.
Billy Hardwick fell into the same happenstance that Don Glover.
That gives Dick Ritger a 183 game. Billy Hardwick cannot catch him. So the story of the Phoenix PBA Open is almost history now. Dick Ritger gets set to meet Ed Patterson from Dallas. And at stake, the championship and $6,000 first prize money. And we'll be back in a minute.
Champions, we look to the lanes, and in gold and blue, Dick Ritger.
Out of the gate.
Out of the chute. Now, Don Johnson.
Double.
His parents are here watching, along with the people that started him in Kokomo, and now Dick Ritger, who has a tremendous number of fans also.
Great match, Chris. Pressure building very early when the players get a start like that.
Things are all even after 2 frames, each with a double.
The temperature has gone up about 15 or 20 degrees down there, and the adrenaline is starting to flow.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, too, Chris. I can feel it.
Even our marker, Harry Smith, getting fired up.
Going for 3. They're both still live for the 300.
3 in a row. And now, when Don Johnson match it. He's got 2 in a row.
Chris, we talked earlier about
Ritger has 3 in a row. And again, we're even. 8 straight strikes. Ritger and Johnson.
Going along at this pace, Chris, it looks like the first one that cracks is going to lose. Could we see 2 300 games? That'd be unbelievable.
You have to be a champion. You have to have won a PBA event in order to be eligible. There were 48 champions that started here on Thursday. And after 48 games, the 5 top bowlers in our live telecast. Five in a row. And now the pressure goes right back. Seesawing this time.
What a match, Chris.
6 in a row. And a 10-pin lead. But Dick Ritger has 5 in a row, getting ready to shoot in the 6th frame.
If this one doesn't thrill the audience, Chris, you just don't like fried chicken on Sunday, I'll tell you that. Goes quickly.
And we have reached the halfway point of what could be a record-breaking afternoon. 13 stops on the tour. This is the last 9th year of our ABC PBA telecasts. There they are, all those strikes.
Pheasant tracks.
Between the two, they've got a 300.
Right, Chris.
Ritger's string is broken. It's a 4-pin on the left lane. The applause now, much deserved.
There are real great fans here at the Riviera, Chris. The Akron fans really know professional bowling, and they've really rewarded the players' great efforts this week. Now this is take charge time for Andy Marsich, Pete Thomas. Rolled it well.
The 8-pin for Dick Ritger. Ritger defeated hot Jim Stefanich, who had a 269 in his first game. Ritger came back with a 263. Then he defeated Mike Durbin, 237 to 211. And now in the final game.
Chris, he's far from out of it, though.
Right.
That's his 8th. He has a chance in the 9th. If he sets a strike up and could strike out in the 10th, he'd have a 268, which Don Johnson is now with 8 in a row, rolling along at 260 pace.
Billy, we look forward to next year joining the PBA and ABC television and bringing the folks another series.
He's still alive, Chris.
Yep. Strike in the 9th frame for Ritger. Now Johnson. Get this, 8 in a row.
Solid 10, Chris. Unbelievable.
And the very last ball, Don Johnson. Tension-filled live color telecast from the Riviera Lanes in Akron, Ohio. Our final stop. It's the $100,000 Tournament of Champions. Here's Ritger, who disposed of Jim Stefanich with a 263 to 215. And like Stefanich in the first game, who shot a 269, Ritger had 9 strikes. Now he goes against 29-year-old Mike Durbin. And after Stefanich had such a great first game, he experienced the 4-pin problem. And here's Ritger on the left lane with a 4.
Chris, you can really feel that tension starting to build as we're going for that higher prize check and the win. They're playing now for a difference of $6,000 in this game. And an ultimate chance to win $25,000. Now the 4-5. He's razor sharp with accuracy anyway on the second shot.
Right. Ritger opened his second game with a spare. It's a great fit.
Chris, it's the only way to make it.
Ritger with his first strike, second frame. Earlier on audio tape, he had this to say about his attitude about bowling in this year's Tournament of Champions.
The big difference with the Firestone Tournament of Champions is the fact that you have to mentally prepare yourself for this tournament. You try to stay up, stay at a peak throughout the week. You have 4 days of tough qualifying and finals, and you know that there's much more money, much more prestige if you are the champion, so you have to mentally work yourself, mentally keep yourself at a peak. And I think the bowlers that can do this, sustain this for the 4 days, will probably come out on top.
Dick Ritger, who now is a double. People from all parts of the country coming here to watch this event. And Ritger, who had a double working, leaves the 10-pin on the right lane.
And that was really the take charge shot. You saw Ritger running it out. Of course, 3 in a row, increased his lead another 10. You don't see Ritger go to the speed that much, and he really wanted that strike.
Ooh.
There were a few oohs and ahs there, Chris.
So there you see it. That'll be the 5th frame for Ritger. Remember, the winner of this goes into the final game head-to-head against tournament leader Don Johnson, where they will bowl for $37,500. Another 10.
That was the soft 10 there, Chris. Started that ball out a little more to the right, and it used up a lot of its roll in getting back and hit very softly, what we call the soft 10 or the half 10. Very astute young man, this Dick Ritger. He's the chairman of the PBA's image committee, and very much responsible for keeping the fellows looking sharp, Chris.
Okay.
Just waiting because it'll be Dick Ritger who will bowl first on the left lane here at the Garden. Dick Ritger opening with a strike in the first frame. Well, there you have the first double of this afternoon, our live color telecast from the Garden in New York City. Standing room only here in the lanes at the Garden. Weber had great scores on this pair, McGrath as well, not quite as good. And he left the 6-10 on the right lane.
You're going to see the hit. The ball breaks too sharp. He's playing the outside edge, and it comes very, very fast from there.
So now, sort of cross lane, he'll try to cover the 6-10. Ooh. Dick Ritger, 34 years old. A couple of very small bowlers here in this first game. Dick Ritger's 5'7", and this was Dick's average for the week, 218. Notice how carefully they set themselves on the approach. So they both love the left lane. That's obvious early here in the first game. They both have had strikes there. Here's the man that's perfect up to this point. Has a double working for him, shooting in the 3rd frame of the United States Open at Madison Square Garden. It just didn't come up.
We see it in slow motion. Now, Chris said it didn't come up. There you see it trying. The ball got away from Dick a little sooner. We call that on the downswing. And when it gets away that soon, you don't get the little lift, the pull with the fingers that makes the ball revolve and break a little sharper. He was on line.
So, Dick Weber, who was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, was a mail carrier for a while, then started his hand at bowling, and he's gone on to win 23 PBA titles, all-time money winner. And the past president of the Professional Bowling Association, Dick Weber, has another strike. All this action coming to you from Madison Square Garden will return in a minute.
Your lawn have played there this week. That's about the 1, 2, and 3 board going way down, giving it lift, and then it breaks right sharp in the last 10 feet.
Great match this first game. Dick Ritger now coming back with a strike. You just joined us. He is the number 5 bowler, Dick Weber number 4. They're bowling in the very first game. At the moment, Weber has a 2-pin deficit. He's trailing Ritger by 2. And of course, the double here would help Ritger by another 10 pins. All but the 10 pin. From the beginning.
There you see, puts the ball into motion. A very smooth swing, goes a little behind his back. Now he gets away with it. There you see the foot turn. Now he doesn't get enough lift, so watch the pin. It's going to kind of just lazily come off the wall. See that? It's going in the channel. It doesn't have the power.
Well, for these professionals, a routine spare. Dick Ritger. Right now, it's Dick Ritger at whom we're looking, that trails by 8 pins in this first game. If you lose, you're out. You just have to watch the rest of the action. But if you win, you go on.
We showed you Dick Ritger's angle. Let him tell you about it.
Well, I'm playing a far outside angle, probably as far out as I've ever played. I get the best break to the pocket and the best pin carry. My right shoulder is lined up about 5 or 6 inches over the right channel. All I'm doing is walking straight, trying to swing straight, releasing the ball over the first, second, or third board.
That was the voice of Dick Ritger. Now he's on the left lane. A double for Ritger as we're nearing the end of this very first game, because the winner of this game will go on to meet Mike McGrath from El Cerrito, California. We'll be back after this message. That baby was rolling.
Yes, you see, that's a tribute to the champion, and that's where experience comes in, Chris. The ability to concentrate under this type of pressure.
Now with the pressure on, Dick Ritger has a double up. And he comes mighty high in disaster down at the end of the lane. Let's see it from the beginning.
Well, look at it from the beginning. You see the bowler, you see the shot. Now, you'll see the result, too. Now, right there, you see the weight come forward. He gets way too much lift, and you see how sharp it breaks? Almost turns left. It cuts through when this happens, especially with that sharp a finish. 4, 7, 9, 10. Very difficult.
Here's his try. So it's an open frame for Dick Ritger from Hartford, Wisconsin. And Weber, at whom we're looking, leads now by 17 pins. And in bowling, you can't recover, really, after an open. It's just lost. It's gone. But watch him come back. He'll probably have a strike. Billy, bowling is often...
Dean, Dick Ritger can still win this game, can defeat Dick Weber by striking out in the 10th. He can make, you saw the hit, 214. Dick Ritger needs 2 strikes. Got to have the first one. Then we can talk about the second.
In other words, right now.
If he doesn't strike here, he loses. Okay. He is still alive. Now, he got the first one. He's got to get the second one. Dick Ritger needs this strike. Then he's got to count 5 pins.
Oh, the thrill of competition. Which reminds me that we often hear Jim McKay say that as host of Wide World of Sports. And that'll follow our telecast. It's a 3-element show, which we'll tell you more about in a little while. But it's a show that will make your afternoon, wherever you are, more enjoyable.
He's great in the clutch.
All right, as Billy told you, now he needs 5-10.
Chris, let me tell you something that happened last night. This young man needed 2 strikes in the 10th frame to make the final rounds today. He got the first one. He would not bowl his second one until he knew what his possibilities were. His sponsor passed away. Now, how can a man be that cool under pressure? I marvel at the professional athlete today, especially the young bowler on the tour. He needs this 5 pins on this ball. He's the winner.
All right, congratulations from the loser, Dick Weber, as he was defeated by only 4 pins, 218 to 214 in the very first game. And now it'll be Ritger going against the left-hander from California, Mike McGrath. Leaving the 6-10 on the right lane, Dick Ritger. Coincidentally, the 2 games on this pair that we're using for our television finals, Ritger's had a 474, 227, 247. McGrath, 213 and 207, 420. On the other hand, Dick Weber, who lost in the first game, had a 257 and a 242 for 501. But today, the pressure's really on. Like an error such as we just saw, chopping that 6 off the 10.
We had it last week. You'll see it again. Right there, the ball's going to break, and it's going to chop the 6 off. Slices it very thin. But when the ball breaks sharp, right at that point, it would happen.
That has to shake up a competitor. Let's see what Dick will do in the left lane. Right back in the groove. And the pocket. Back up, Dick Ritger, trailing by 11 pins. Professional Bowlers Tour telecast is the first of a doubleheader today. Wide World of Sports follows. Tomorrow, we have a tripleheader. Ooh, the bucket. 2, 4, 5, and 8. I mentioned a tripleheader tomorrow. NBA basketball at 2 Eastern. The New York Knicks take on the Boston Celtics. Following NBA basketball, and later in the day on the West Coast, the award-winning outdoor series, the American Sportsman, 4:15 Eastern, 3:15 Central, and 4 Pacific time. And then Howard Cosell's Sports Magazine. Again, leaving the 5.
Chopped it again, Chris. Now, we'll look at it in slow motion. Now, right there, you see the ball break. Watch, there's 12 inches from center to center at the base of that pin. You wonder, how can a bowling ball, which is 9 inches in diameter at its widest point, or slightly fractions less, get through there? But when the lane is that dry and the ball is breaking, it happens. There's little room.
Right. Dick Ritger of Hart, Wisconsin. We'll be back in a minute. The second game will go against the semifinalist, the man who finished second in the overall competition, Dave Davis. Right now, Dick Ritger in the second game is going against Mike McGrath, with McGrath leading by 23. International Drag Racing's championships. And Dick Ritger has a double going. Or he'll have to string. As you saw, trailing by 25. Oh, that helps. He's trailing by 15. Now, Dick Ritger has has a turkey working for him.
Chris, this is a key hit to cut it down to 5 pins. Didn't get the roll.
No. Like Mike McGrath on the right lane, Dick Ritger left the 2-pin. If you just joined us in the first game, the man bowling now, Dick Ritger, defeated Dick Weber 218 to 214.
Chris, I must praise Dick Ritger. All the problems that he had on the right lane. Now, he played that shot pretty cool, even though he didn't get the finish. He didn't want to charge through and get a big split. There's the score sheet. Now, look what can happen. He's bowling now his final frame, the 10th for Ritger. If he makes 3 strikes, he gets 194. If he makes 3 strikes, he forces McGrath to mark on McGrath's tough lane.
There's one.
Got the first one. If he gets a strike here, the pressure then goes on Michael McGrath.
The 2-5.
Chris, he lost that ball just a little bit early. Here it is from the beginning. We see the player. Now watch the player. Right there. You see it go off a little quick? Now he hit his line, but going off that quick, you don't get the lift. So the ball didn't break back as sharp. Now, Mike must still stay behind. Chopped it. 183.
4 times in one game chopping. 183 as we look at that chop again.
There's that serious young man there who is 35 years old is Dick Ritger, leading Bob Strappy on the 4th by 1. We're at Mel's Bowl in Alameda. It's American Recreation Center House. Bob Poigner, the president, is here today. That just didn't do anything, that ball.
But it was a little inside of his line. He was praying for it to hold back and trip the 4-7 out. You can see where it gets a possible trip right here. It hangs just enough in the pocket to get the pin, but it catches the edge of the lane and does not come back onto the lane surface. And therefore, the 4-7 remains standing. He was a little bit slow and probably about a board inside of his target line. But I think one of the most outstanding things happened just a moment ago. Dick Ritger picked up a piece of masking tape on his heel, and Strappy called it to his attention instead of letting him bowl thusly. And that's a great tribute to Strappy and sportsmanship.
But they're great sportsmen, like golfers. You know, they help each other out. If you're having a problem with your swing or something, or approaching the line, they go to each other, and they really help each other out. You see that all the time in these tournaments.
Ritger had 299 in the tournament. That's as near as the 300 as you can possibly get.
With Ritger now leading by 1.
A chance to take a commanding lead. In this game, we've seen a number of taps, more taps than we've had in the rest of the matches combined so far today. And it goes that way sometimes. Speed control.
That's that important when you're talking about. And he leads by 11. By the way, I'd like to express our thanks to the Pro Bowlers Association, its Executive Director, Joe Antonora, and the American Recreation Centers for their cooperation on today's telecast. As I mentioned, the prize money is furnished by the PBA and the Midas International Corporation.
Pin lead now. Double up. Strike here would put him 21 in the lead. Got a good close one, bud.
Look at the concentration. He's He's almost the most machine-like, I think, of all the bowlers, isn't he, Ritger?
Pretty much so. Very seldom changes expression. Always got the scowl.
Let's say not a scowl, a look
at the adjustment.
Now I have Dick in the 8th. He's leading by 10. By the way, he comes from Hartford, Wisconsin, where most of the mufflers are made for Midas, who's the sponsor here this afternoon. I didn't know whether those were all going to go or not.
Looked like the 8-10 might stand. It was awful slow in going down. Back to 10 pins difference. Ritger, a 10-pin lead. Shooting in the 9th frame with a strike up can take a 20-pin lead with a strike here. That's a big ball, bud.
That's like watching the train come in late, isn't it?
Who said if you're not patient? Tightens it out. It forces Ritger to strike. If Ritger doesn't strike here, Strappy is the winner. That's how important count can be sometimes. If he would have got 7 on that final ball, he'd have had 224. Ritger could have won with 9 a spare and 9. Now, Ritger must strike. Little man doing what he has to. Mail call.
That does it, doesn't it, or not?
Well, he can't foul. We must allow for that. The players, once in a great while, slip and slide over the line. He cannot foul on this ball, or he would lose the benefit of what he made on that previous shot. No, there's the winner.
There he is. Now he's got it. For sure. And Dick Ritger, who won 3 tournaments last year, he starts out here in the first one for the PBA, winning this one. Make his total to 14 tournaments, and you'll see him later this month on ABC's Superstar show.
Strappy really gave it a whirl there for a bit. Everybody congratulate the winner. Dick Ritger, that's his 14th win on the PBA Tour.
On behalf of all the employees of Midas International and the more than 600 Midas dealers throughout the United States and Canada, it is my pleasure to present to you this trophy. You are a great champion. In addition to that, I'd like to present to you a check for $14,000. You well deserved it. Thank you, Dick. I would also like to say that Dick is really a hometown boy because he comes from Hartford, Wisconsin, which is the home of our largest muffler manufacturing plant.
Thank you very much, Milt. Great having you on ABC. Where's Jim Stefanich? Come on in here.
AMF bowling pros have helped design a new ball. Here's Dick Ritger to tell you about it.
Here's how AMF's Pro Classic can help you get higher scores through zone control bowling. It all happens in the power zone and the action zone. This soft polyester ball is designed to hug the lane and give more traction in the power zone, so it can plow into the pocket with more drive in the action zone.
The new AMF Pro Classic ball, available at your pro shop or bowling center.
The winner of this match will challenge PBA Hall of Famer Dick Ritger with 19 titles to his credit. The winner will then meet the number 2 bowler, Marshall Holman, who finished second here last year. The winner of this match will bowl for the championship against last year's Quaker State Open titleist, Mark Roth, today on the Pro Bowlers Tour.
You know, we'll go through the top 5. We really have a great field. We have 2 old-timers, fellows that were bowling on the tour on the inception. Dave Sutar and Dick Ritger are sensational players. They have all the experience. But going against them will be 3 young lions that the tour has developed in the last 3 or 4 years.
Nelson Burton Jr. That'll come a little later in our live telecast from Texas. Leaving the 4, Dick Ritger, who had an open frame in the first.
These 2 experienced players proving that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Sutar playing the outside line, about the 3rd or 4th board at the arrows. Dick Ritger, the inside line, inside the 3rd arrow, about the 17th board at the arrows. Both finished very high in the tournament, both looking for the Quaker State title. Second match.
So it's a spare for Dick Ritger, now living in River Falls, Wisconsin, which is right at the Minnesota border and at the St. Croix River. It's a beautiful valley.
You know, Chris, Dick Ritger has stayed on the tour for a long time, and I asked him how he stayed in such good shape, and here's what he had to say.
Well, Bo, it's been quite a tour for me. I've been out here 15 years, but I think the thing that keeps me going is the competition, number 1, on a part-time basis, and number 2, the ability to run, meaning I run a lot, run miles to stay in shape, and I used to run to get ahead of the bowlers. Now I run to stay up with, you know, Roth, Holman, Hudson, and some of the young fellas.
He's running to skip up with those young guys, Chris. But you know one thing he does on December 7th every year is he runs what they call the frigid mile up there. In cold weather, they ran in a foot of snow, he and his wife, and he said he ran it in about a little under 7 minutes. So you know he's in pretty good shape.
That's much better than being a member of the Polar Bear Club. Dick Ritger trailing by 7. There, his first strike. Dick Ritger and his wife Judy, parents of 4 children, and Dick was saying he hoped to be scoring well this year because in successive years, starting next year, he'll have 3 of his children in college. Now to take the lead with a double. No, a high hit and gets a bad break, the 6-7. Look at him talking to himself, and here's what happened after the release at the line. Does get the 10, but it's still the 6-7 for Dick Ritger. So as a result of that second open frame in 5'7" Dick Ritger is up now, weighing in at 145 pounds. Former and past president of the Professional Bowlers Association, and he is in the PBA Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. 10-pin.
Half 10. Did not quite get up to the pocket from that inside line, and Dick is talking to himself now. Experienced player, he never gives up. He's great in the clutch. Right now he's 29 pins behind another experienced super player who's grooved in the pocket, so Ritger definitely has his work cut off for him in the last 4 frames.
The winner to move up against the man Bo just interviewed, Marshall Holman. And then the winner of the semifinal game in our live coverage will go against Mark Roth.
Look at that height and weight. Man has not changed in the 15 years I've known him. I attribute that to non-dissipation. You find this guy always in shape.
You ought to know, Bo. You're the clean liver. 7-pin on the left lane for Ritger here at the Forum in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Ritger around the pocket, but from that inside angle, watch the 5-pin drive over, try to get the 7, but see the ball deflected, did not quite get enough of the 5 to drive it in there. Just a little more turn on that ball, and he had the 7 down.
Now, Dave Sutar, as we're going to take a break after the 7th with a strike up.
Sutar doing what he likes to do, stay ahead in the match, keep the pressure on the opponent. But he's got a tough one here. Ritger still must throw strikes to get back in the match.
And a 10-pin on the right lane.
Here's the classic style in the game of bowling. It's probably the finest there is. Look at that locked arm swing, shoulders level, good high follow through. Everything absolutely perfect. What a qualified man to be a teacher. His style is the epitome of the game. Great concentration. The possibilities are this: Ritger coming up in the 9th frame. If he strikes the 9th, 10th, and 11th, he'll be in the 190s. That would force Dave Sutar to mark out. So Ritger is not out of the match yet. Still has a possibility. He definitely needs a strike here to put some pressure on Sutar.
9th frame for the holder of a bachelor's degree in physical education from across Wisconsin State University.
Just had all sorts of trouble. He closed the door for himself that time. Sutar is going to win this match sitting on the bench. Now watch the ball breaking very sharply at the back end. He's trying to make the adjustment for those weak 10s and that swish and 7, and it's just not working today. Just guessed wrong on that particular shot. He's giving it a go.
You saw the odds for a professional, 10 to 1. And that gives Mattingly's 157. Now goes against the tournament leader, confident 32-year-old George Papis.
Advantage Ritger. More experience, been there before, and he's zeroed in on a tough pair of lanes. Wow.
Hard to
solid
believe.
10. Both players almost identical styles, Chris. It's semi-rollers just outside the thumb. They don't play the big hook like we see with Mark Roth or Marshall Holman or Jeff Mattingly. They're the line ball players that lift straight through the ball with their wrist to keep it in play. Usually have the advantage to the line ball players when the scores are tougher like this, to the big hook ball players when the alleys are scoring very high.
All right, as he did in the previous game, marking with a spare. This one easier, shooting only the 10-pin winning from a 4-step to a 5-step approach this week. And what a double. Now Ritger with a spare up, shooting in the 2nd.
Threw it a little extra speed. What a nice touch he has. See that ball up high and just stuffed him straight back. And he likes that.
Oh, another beautiful strike. This one by Dick Ritger, the 2nd frame of the final game. And if you just joined us, here are the scores of the previous games. First game, Steve Neff defeated Tommy Hudson 190 to 187. Then Jeff Mattingly defeated Steve Neff 202 to 133. And just a few moments ago, Dick Ritger, at whom we're looking, and who will be bowling in the left lane, shot at 227 to Mattingly's 157. Thus into the finals against Papis. High hit, leaving the 4-7.
Lost the ball on a downswing. That extra heat makes that hand perspire a little bit. Did not get the usual Dick Ritger loft. Now watch this ball. Instead of setting up at the pocket, breaks just a little bit high. And breaks up the 4-7-10. The 10 pin on your right part of your screen will be the last extra pin to go down. Automatic move to the right on the approach. Cross lane, 3rd arrow.
And in this major championship, a difference of 13,000, winning or losing. One game. Shooting in the 5th frame while we were away, he made a 4-pin spare. This time leaving the 2-4-8. All right, a spare for Dick Ritger, looking for his first TFC win, trailing by 13. Thought he had them all, leaving the 10 on the right lane, shooting in the 6th frame of this championship match.
And what has to be going through George Papis's mind? 5 frames, just sensational. All of a sudden, just totally disconcerted, lost shot in the 6th. Lost it on the 1st ball and the 2nd ball. I don't know what he's asking for, some sort of ruling.
A little ice water, George Papis. Got plenty of it in his veins. He is tough, leading all the way now coming into this final game. Spare for Ritger in the 6th frame, 126 for Papis through 6.
Ritger taking a little extra time. That's not a bad record on TV. That's where the big money is.
Had some doubt. Let's see where Ritger starts on the approach.
Ritger stands way over on the right side of the approach, but watch how he drifts left. You see him just walking slightly left, right up the second arrow. There we go, ideal. 21. Can cut it to 11 with another strike. And what a time to leave a solid 10. A bad break for Ritger, great break for Papis.
George Papis really going to the ice water now. It is extremely warm there. As Ritger now will cross-line it for the 10-pin.
Situation is this. Dick Ritger is going at a 195 pace. George Papis 216. 21-pin lead for Papis, but Ritger with strikes in the 9th, 10th, and 11th could be right at a 215, could go right down to the last frame. Scoreboard tells the whole story. Papis in the driver's seat.
Individual sport, and though we're working in television where it's a big team effort and we have a lot of great technicians and production people have made these 16 weeks possible.
You're right, Chris. Ritger with an all-important strike in the 9th frame.
Got 9. So a 223. George Papis has won his first Tournament of Champions, and again, for the second time, Dick Ritger has finished second. First frame. Now the veteran of 19 PBA titles, former president of the PBA, 2 years, Dick Ritger. And a lofted shot on the right lane gets him a strike.
Well, you can see Ritger's experience showing right away. The first shot, been on the telecast many times, went with a little extra loft and played the hit light. When you have a super high scoring condition, you're better off trying to stay light. If you pull it a little bit, you go off solid. As you can see, Dick Ritger's 42 game average for the week, 228. Big scores.
And on this television pair, he has averaged 246. And immediately puts the pressure on the non-winner, Dave Beckman of Mercer Island, Washington. That's in the Seattle area. Has marked with a spare in the 3rd frame. Now, Ritger is perfect up to this point, shooting in the 3rd frame. For the 40-year-old father of 4.
And we have what makes good scores every week. It's the good lane condition with the oil all the way down the lane. Here's Ritger's profile, just absolutely perfect. Very similar to Beckman's, although there's 15 years age difference between the two men. Ritger going for 4 in a row up on the left-hand lane. Leads by 20.
Carefully positioned now on the approach. Ten-pin on that lane 13 here at the Wonder Bowl.
Ritger playing a little less speed on the left-hand lane. He's playing both lanes the same, and yet he throws just a little slower on the left-hand lane. And that lets the ball finish.
In our continuing telco problems, we have word that the telephone company is trying its very best to correct your pictures. All right, after 3 in a row, marking with a spare in the 4th frame of our first game here at the Wonder Bowl in San Antonio, where we'll return after this. Ty Babylonia and Randy Gardner. All this on Wide World of Sports. 7th frame. Little sweeper, giving him 137 through the 6th with a strike up in the 7th. And we got to point out, as we look at the pinfall, watch it again, that Telco is working hard to correct your picture breakup on your television set wherever you are. It is not your set. It is a telephone problem.
And speaking of breakup, Chris, the head pin did the job on the 4, 5, and 7 for Ritger that time. That's his patented shot. That's his favorite shot. Stay light, shake him off the sideboard. Ritger, 8th frame, can increase his lead to 29.
Another 5.
Once again, Ritger with a little too much speed and didn't allow that ball to break, and he knows he got a break. He almost got a pocket split, 5-7. Headpin went to the sideboard and took out the 7, but did not come back and take the 5.
Winner of 19 titles. Our professional bowling preparing now to shoot in the 9th with the spare working in the 8th frame. Pocket hit in the 9th for Ritger.
Chris, if Ritger strikes on this ball, he will put Beckman out of business. Chris, Ritger is working at a 217 pace, but if he would happen to spare and strike and Beckman throw 3 strikes in the 10th, we could have a tie, which would initiate a 2-frame roll-off. Ritger leading by 10, strike working, could shut out Beckman.
Imagine that, 228 average all week long.
Sets up the possibility of a tie, Chris. Ritger with spare strike, 217. Beckman with 3 strikes in the 10th, another 217. By no means is it over. Ritger with a spare strike cannot assure himself of a win. Beckman will determine what's going to happen in the match. Confident look on that young man's face.
Cross lane for his mark.
Situation is this: Ritger needs 1 strike to make Beckman get 3 strikes. Best Ritger can shoot is 217.
Oh. 217 is the final score for Dick Ritger. And now, as Nelson
Roger Tramp, and of course, Malacosta.
10-pin for Ritger, who had a 3-bagger going. Ritger, who won the first game, if you just joined us, 217 to Dave Beckman's 207. He had 6 strikes in that game. He has 6 thus far in his second game.
All that Ritger has to do to win this match is to mark in the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and he will go on to meet Mark Roth. Ritger's job is to stay clean. He's working at a 226 pace. The best Gonzalez can do is 212. And nearly the 810. But here's this 10-pin that gave him a little trouble. And what had happened, Chris, is he apparently stepped in some powder that had been mislaid underneath the settee area where the ball sits. And nobody thought to look under there. And Dick must have been rubbing his foot in a nervous action. And he slipped. And when you lose your footwork, it's definitely difficult to have timing. No problem there, though.
Spare in the 9th frame for Dick Ritger. Gonzalez is a 209.
With that short count, all Ritger needs to do is get a good count on his first ball. And there's the winner, Dick Ritger.
A wobbly 4.
Putting myself in Ritger's position, you almost have a inferiority feeling when you bowl against a fellow like Mark Roth. Dick Ritger, who is not noted for his powerful ball, but for his tenacity on the lanes and his accuracy, almost has an inferiority complex. He told me about it before we got on. He says that Roth is unbelievable with his power, and he must be working on his mind.
All right, 2 frames are completed here in this semifinal game. The winner to meet Neil Burton of St. Louis.
You know, we get to see Ritger in the wintertime bowling on national telecasts, and he keeps threatening to retire every year. But in the summers, he goes to Europe, Chris, and trains the bowlers over in Europe. And he really says he enjoyed it. I think he spent a lot of time in Sweden and Finland, traveled throughout Europe last year, and he's going to do it again this year.
Phys Ed major from La Crosse, Wisconsin State University. Got a break on the left lane. 7 going out. And oh, how late. In the semifinal match, either Ritger, at whom you're looking, or powerful Mark Roth. 4th frame, strike up. So the finesse classic style bowler has doubled, cutting Roth's lead to 10 pins. What a match.
Ritger was all awe for Mark Roth. He said he got the bowl next to him in the finals, 24-man finals the last 2 weeks, and he's so impressed with him. He said he never had a chance to really study him that much, but by no means is he going to hand the match to Mark Roth. Dick Ritger has to be beaten. He will not beat himself.
The man with the tough thumb, you see it right there, bleeding last night. Thought he had it. 10 pin on the left lane.
A solid 10, and he really needed that one to keep the pressure on Roth. That would have pulled the match even. Ritger has always been known for his great competitive ability. He seems to sneak up on you. He has that low profile, doesn't get real excited out there. He doesn't make a lot of noise, but he is very, very tough to beat, as evidenced by 19 previous championships.
All right, San Antonio, where bowling is very popular, in the 6th frame. Bowler of the year twice, Mark Roth, and now Dick Ritger. High hit, leaving the 6th.
Ritger makes his first drastic mistake of the day. He's been around the pocket the first 2 games in all 5 frames of this match, but he can see the ball pulled well inside the 2nd arrow. About the 14th board he hit on that. Had no chance to keep in the pocket. Heck, got a good break by not getting a split. Routine spares 6 pin.
Recapping the first 2 games.
Notice both how they loft the ball about 2 or 3 feet out of the lane. That's lifted out. They don't throw it out there. They lift it.
Strike in the 7th for Ritger. 21 pins separating these 2 pros. More. Mark Roth and Ritger is up. He has a strike working, shooting in the 8th frame of the semifinal game.
With that speed that Roth just used, I venture to say that nobody on the tour would consistently carry that particular strike. He just shredded the rack like they weren't even there. Ritger with his back to the wall, trailing by 31, 8th frame. Strike working.
So it's a double for Dick Ritger, our statistician Palmer Faugren.
And as I said, Chris, the tournament goes 42 games. We had 18 games of qualifying. You can see the 3 different leaders: Tommy Enright, Les Zykes, Mark Roth. And then after 8 games of qualifying, finals, Frank Ellenberg and Dick Ritger, who's in there. And finally, the ultimate leader so far, who still has to bowl 1 more game, my little brother.
And his older brother must be saving himself for St. Louis a week from today. Is that right?
Well, hopefully I can do better than I did here. Ritger with a chance to move the match down to 11 pins.
Beautiful professional bowling to Dick Ritger.
Ritger must strike on this ball. If he strikes and gets 9s, if he strikes on this ball, gets 9 spare, we have a tie. If he gets 2 strikes, he's the winner.
Murmur now.
What a great clutch shot. He needs 1 more strike to defeat Mark Roth. If they get 9 spare, we have a tie, 2-frame roll-off. We haven't had one this year. It's a great possibility right here.
And the winner to go into the final for $15,000 against Neil Burton. This man has been incredible with a smile. He has won 3 games in a row. Dick Ritger averaging .233, and now he will meet 32-year-old Neil Burton, Nelson Burton Jr.'s little brother. Neil Burton's opponent is this man. Yeah, that's the way he started each of his games. Dick Ritger, 24 through the 2nd.
He just completed the 2 toughest frames of his life.
Oh, boy.
And Ritger, who is nice and loose and experienced, trying to be only the 4th man to win 20 PBA titles or more, Second frame, strike working in the first.
And a high hit, 3-6-10 for Ritger on the right lane. This could very well be his last year.
Well, you know, Chris, he's so interested in the teaching. He runs the bowling camps, which are getting popular around the country, teaching young players in summer camps, spending time in Europe. And he keeps saying it every year, but with the talent he has, it's still enjoyable to use it. And as we said, going for his 20th title, the only other men that have that many are Earl Anthony, Dick Weber, and Don Johnson.
Dick Weber, our host a week from today. So it's a spare in the second frame. 20 through the first, leading by 16.
As we see as the day has worn on, Chris, we've been on the air an hour and 15 minutes. The right-hand lane, which everybody liked, is now breaking too much. The left-hand lane, which everybody disliked, seems to be their favorite. So Ritger up on the lane that gave him trouble, which was actually the one that led him to the wins because his opponents couldn't strike on it, is now his favorite lane. We've seen both players in this match go high on the right-hand lane. And now the left-hand lane hooking a little more should be just right.
40 through the second with a strike.
Match score system that the players use this week.
Oh, now.
The tide may have turned. Ritger a little too much speed, moved a little too deep. 8-10 split. Here's when you don't have enough drive on the ball. It looks like it's finishing good. Watch the 5 slide in front of the 8-pin, the 6 in front of the 10. There goes the 5 to the left, the 6 to the right. The 8-10, Ritger has tightened the match up, and it is wide open. Could be anybody's ball game now. Ritger will be leading just by 13 now.
All right, that is the situation in this championship match, head-to-head, live and in color, we hope.
And only leading by 13, he's placed every ball right near the pocket, and could still end up a close match.
And now Ritger has a bucket.
40 years old, maybe he's beginning to tire. He lost that ball in the bottom of the swing, the one he forced before. These spares just don't walk in.
And 3 tough games.
Agreed.
Against Beckman, Gonzalez, and then, you know, Mr. Speedball himself, Mark Roth, Bowler of the Year twice. And here is Ritger now.
Cross lane, double wood. You have to make sure you get the 8-pin and avoid the chop of the 5.
So now we've seen both players in the same lane, covering the 2, 4, 5, 8, 13 pins separating. It's coming through, Nelson.
Yeah, it was.
And now here is Ritger, shooting in the 8th frame. He has a spare working, leading by 3.
Do not count Dick Ritger out. He's leading by 3, but the momentum seems to be changed, but he's experienced.
Just like that. That strike in the 8th frame, and going back just one match, going against Mark Roth. Didn't look as though Ritger was going to make it, but he did.
Well, he hangs tough in there. I said he plays that low profile, but Ritger's experienced player. He's put pressure on Neil here. This is the crucial shot of the whole tournament for Dick Ritger. If he doesn't strike here, he leaves the door wide open for Neil. 9th frame, leading by 3.
With a strike up.
And what a great shot he just threw. He threw his best shot of the tournament, puts the pressure back on Neil. Ritger knows the score. He knows that Neil gets a strike here. It's 2-0-2 for Neil. Ritger has to fill at least 17 in the 10th and 11th frames. The situation is this for Ritger. Ritger with a strike takes home his 20th title, becoming only the 4th man to win 20 titles. If he doesn't strike, he still has to mark to win.
Dick Ritger. He finished 4th in the overall competition. His first match was against Dave Beckman, winning at 217 to 207. Then he defeated Henry Gonzalez, 235 to 209. Then Mark Roth, 248 to 237. And in a tough head-to-head battle here against Neil Burton, the championship match.
Amazing how the frames come around. If that had been 1 frame earlier for Ritger, but he is the winner, and that's what it's all about.
There is the winner of the AMF Magic Score Open here in San Antonio on the right, Dick Ritger, 211 to 202. A tenacious Neil Burton and Fred Green, president of AMF Bowling Division, presenting the check, $15,000.